Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan, beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin, along with our guy, Crunchy Kevin Holden, CBS58 sports director. Follow him on Twitter at 321Q Kevin. Follow me at Sparky Radio. Ryan Horvat off today on jury duty. Hoping to have Mr. Horvat back on Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. Kevin Holden, have you ever done jury duty? And if so, how did it go?
I was called for it once. I just moved to Milwaukee like maybe a year or two after I got here. I got called to jury duty, but usually when someone in our profession gets called to jury duty and you go, it's like, oh no, you work in this line of work, right? Like in my case, it's like you're a member of the media, which by the way, don't start me on that term, the media, but it's, usually that's the end of it. In my case, I didn't even get in the door. I just called that morning and they said, "Nah, we're good."
Really?
Yeah.
I got called a few years ago and went and I got called into, over the course of 2 days, 5 courtrooms, sat there, listened, whole thing. And then, they comes around of you have to stand up, tell everybody your name and what you do or whatever else. And the very first day, the second or third courtroom I was in that day, I don't remember which one. I stood up, said my name, and the judge literally goes, "Hey, everybody, this is Steve Sparky, Fifer from 1250. I listen to him every day. Sparky, how those Packers going to be, buddy?" And I started laughing. Everybody started laughing. I said it, whatever. So then that night, we get released at 5 o'clock or whatever else. Obviously, I don't get picked. And I'm walking out, and one of the lawyers from one of the courtrooms, that courtroom, I think, is walking out, and I was like, "Hey, man," I said, "I'm not getting picked tomorrow, are you?" He's like, "Not if you're the only person in that juror stand. You're not getting picked." No. Like, that's what I figured. He's like, "Yeah, no chance." He goes, "Enjoy your show, though. I listen every day." I'm like, "Cool, thanks, appreciate it." And that was the extent of it.
Has there been another place like that where you got crazy? Because I have another story. If we're going to go down.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know how TSA approves you for a thing called global entry. There's a thing called TSA PreCheck, which gets you through lines at the airport faster.
Sure.
Which is helpful for me and my wife because we do like to travel. And then there's a global entry version of it. And global entry usually requires like you have to go in person and they go through a questionnaire or whatever. Well, my wife and I are sitting in this room and this guy opens it's like a side door. And he's like, "Sir, I need you to come here for a second." And I'm thinking like, what did I do? What's
this at the airport?
It's like across the street from it. It's like a weird building like down by Mitchell. And I'm thinking like, man, something in my past, is I don't have a crazy history, but who knows, right?
Right.
And he closes the door and he goes, "Dude, I just had to say I love it when you fill in on the fan."
That's awesome.
And we talked about your station the whole time. And then at the end, he's like, "Yep, here you go. Here's your global entry."
That's awesome. How funny is that? That is amazing. Oh my God. So funny. Yeah. Those were the good old days back in the day doing local sports talk radio on the Fan. Hell yeah. Okay, so now we're in podcast version. Curtain log. Normally we always talk Packers. I got Kevin Holden. When I have Kevin, I tend to like to do everything. And there's stuff going on with Packers, Badgers, and Brewers. I wasn't even going to really talk Bucks necessarily because we have Green and Growing for that. But those other two, we don't really have much of anything. So we're going to get into that too. Okay, so let's first start talking about the Packers first. Coming off of that bye week, there was a report earlier today, Monday, as we record this, by Pat McAfee on his YouTube ESPN show. And he says he's hearing rumblings that they're going to make a change of defensive coordinator in Denver. And he's hearing rumblings that it could be Rex Ryan taking that job. To you, Kevin Holden, I ask, would you rather have Rex Ryan over Joe Barry?
Oh, boy. That's, the trouble there isn't so much the positive of Rex Ryan. It's the continued struggles defensively under Joe Barry. And there was a time in the Aaron Rodgers era that those struggles from Joe Barry's defense were front and center because Rodgers, for the most part, was playing at an MVP level. And you would always say, well, who's to blame for this team not getting where they need to go? And the defense took a lot of blame, and rightfully so in a lot of cases. This year, the bar is lowered, and it makes it cloudier for me to figure that out. I don't know. It's a tougher situation for that defense, and I don't know how much of it I can put on Joe Barry. Okay, so I set all that up to say, I'm usually not a change for the sake of change kind of guy, but maybe change for that sake of change isn't a terrible idea. Rex Ryan has had certainly success in his history. The past has been much kinder to him than it has to Joe Barry in high profile positions in the NFL. I think I just talked myself into Rex Ryan, Sparky.
My thing is one, if you were going to make this move, it had to be right after the last game to give Rex a week and a half to adjust the scheme, whatever he wants to do, get with the guys, going up to the game. Because now you have no break, right? There is no stretch where you have that chance to incorporate him. I don't think him and Sean Payton can coexist. Eagles are too big in both accounts.
Yep.
Could him and LaFleur coexist? Maybe. Because I think LaFleur, the part of the deal would have to be, I'm not going to step on your toes, Rex. Like, you do you. Because with Joe, I feel like he does step on Joe Barry's toes all the time. I don't like what you're doing. I want you to play this way in the second half. No, I don't like what you're doing. We're going to do that this week. Like, he is really kind of running that as well as he's running the offense right now. Rex Ryan is not going to have that. If Rex Ryan comes in, it's going to be like his dad, Buddy, with Ditka. I run the defense, you run the offense, and we'll be fine. Just stay out of my way. And I think that's how it would have to be. I don't think the Packers defense lost that game against the Raiders. The Packers offense lost that game against the Raiders. You held Devonta Adams to one target for over 3 quarters. That was not Joe Barry's fault, okay? That was the Packers' offensive fault for not being able to do a damn thing the whole game. So, in my mind, you weren't going to fire Joe Barry coming off of that game because he did more than enough for his defense to win. We'll see what it looks like the rest of the year. I'm with you. I'd rather have Rex Ryan as well because the one thing we know about Rex Ryan defenses, they're going to be very physical. They're going to play an intimidating style of ball. Will they give up a big play now and then? Absolutely, because they're super aggressive. Are they going to hit the quarterback? Hell yes, they're going to hit the quarterback. And that's something that, not only do you play 10 yards off the damn line of scrimmage half the time with Joe Barry's defense, but then you don't get home when you do blitz half the time because they get picked. All these blitzes, when he does blitz, get picked up. That's the most frustrating thing is, okay, now we're going to be aggressive and blitz, and they get picked up every time.
The one downside that I could think of is right now Matt LaFleur is kind of an easy target for things that have gone wrong.
Yep.
And Rex Ryan would instantly, the second he took over as DC, everybody would say, "Oh, yeah, maybe he's the next head coach. Maybe
absolutely
change." So there's the only downside is that you create an instant drama. No one is saying that about Joe Barry, but still, I think that it takes a step forward. I mean, we've said it for how many years now? A couple of years at least. That the words draft capital, the amount of talent, the amount of potential that's on that side of the ball is just. It's the best it's been in a long time, but as they used to say, potential is the kind of word that gets you fired. Right?
Yep.
You got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Offensive identity, another thing that LaFleur was searching for this team going into the bye week. Said he was going to spend countless nights at the office, yada yada yada. What should the identity of this offense be coming out of the bye week?
Yeah, well, they should be healthy, and that'll help you set to square one. For me, if I'm running this offense and I sit them down this week, and I know I have healthy bodies, I'm assuming
Jones practiced today, so yep. I'm assuming he's fine.
So there's number one, right? That's when you talk identity. That's number one. I look at them and this is what I say to my offense. You saw us in Chicago, and the first thought, of course, is the Bears are just horrible, but whatever. You saw them in Chicago do what they needed to do. That's the last time Aaron Jones was healthy. Aaron Jones is healthy now. Aaron Jones puts that workload right on his back. The offensive identity starts there. A better Jones means a better A.J. Dillon in my mind. I think some of what has gone wrong with A.J. Dillon is because of the lack of Aaron Jones. And then you work your way back from there. Basically, Matt LaFleur gets a chance to put that offense that he had been talking about for a couple of years into place. Going back to when Aaron Rodgers was around and remember, it was the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and they ran all over the Packers with Raheem Mostert. And it was like, well, Matt LaFleur really wants to run that offense here, wants to have that style of play here. I think he can do something closer to that. I don't think he has the depth at running back that they had in San Francisco at that time. But I think that's the start. You pound it. You have some fun, and this first game in Denver would be a great chance to put that into place because you think game script will favor them. Hopefully, the Packers are ahead for most of that game, and they can get the ground game going.
The other thing, I don't want to be too early on this, but I felt like that last game, Christian Watson was Devontae Adams to Aaron Rodgers that's what Watson was to love, where he was so locked in. I'm going to make a play with Christian. I'm going to make a play with Christian. He forgot about Dobbs. He forgot about Jaden Reed. He forgot about everybody. And I saw, I forgot who it was. Somebody tweeted out that this offense was actually playing better before Christian Watson got back than since Christian Watson has gotten back. And I think that has to be a conversation too. Like if we go through this again this week against Denver, and we're doing the same thing where we're going to have him get 8 or 10 targets and force balls and make dumb decisions and ignore the rest of the field, that is going to have to be a conversation that has to be had of, look, dude, I get it. Like, we all know he's the big play threat. We get it. But Reed can be a big play threat. He's made a couple of explosive plays this year. Dobbs needs to be your possession guy. Musgrave needs to be that guy over the middle. Now, again, both of them have to catch balls. They both dropped big balls there in the late in that game in the fourth quarter. But the ball has to be spread out, I think, a little bit more with inside of this offense on top of utilizing Aaron Jones.
Well, that's the truth. I mean, here's the thing. What Packers offense would you rather have had? The one where Rodgers was forcing it to Devontae, or the one where Rodgers put it in the hands of 6 different guys? Now, right. I know I'm speaking 2 different levels of football because Jordan Love and his 6 options are not Aaron Rodgers and his 6 options. But the only way you can get there, the only way that you can spread this out is to make sure you develop those other options. And if you're so locked on Christian Watson, you are delaying the development. Dobbs is a great example, but there are others on the team. You're delaying the development of a group that there's, am I right that there is not a single receiver on that team that's in later than their 3rd season in the NFL? Like it's
2nd season.
2nd is the peak. It's the height.
Samari, Toure, Watson, and Dobbs. Those are 2, and the rest are rookies. Watson and Dobbs have not played a full season yet.
So
because of their injuries last year, they still have not played 17 games between the 2 of them, I don't think.
Good.
Either one of them have played 17 games. And Toure, I think, might have been inactive at the beginning part of the season or not playing. So even from that perspective, I think that's up for question too. So, yeah, and then your 2 rookies, Kraft and Musgrave, and then DeGuara, he's in his 3rd season. So maybe that's where you get the 3rd season from at tight end. But that's it. There ain't nobody else.
So it's like you don't have a choice. You have to develop them. You can't expect to snap your fingers and have veterans. Like it's, no offense to Christian Watson, who will do good things as long as he stays healthy, as long as he doesn't go on the Sammy Watkins path, he'll be fine. But like you're not going to do it with one receiver. That was the whole breakup of the Rodgers Adams era in the first place. So you're 100% right. You got to start with, in my mind, 3 or 4 options, and you have to develop each of them to the absolute max of what they can do right now at this stage in their careers. And then you can start to have a hope of an offense that is diverse. It can't happen this week or next week. It's got to happen each week down the next several, like the next month or so, and then maybe you see some results. It's a long way.
Right. The other issue and big issue is this offensive line sucks. And that's just it. Look, left tackle, horrible. And I know they love Rasheed Walker, and they're going to give him every chance. He was facing 2 studs the last 2 weeks. Fine. But you can't have Jordan Love being worried about getting hit from the backside every single time he drops back. Like, that can't be a thing. Then you have panic throws, and now he's seeing ghosts, as Rodgers would say. That's a problem. Running's been god-awful at right guard, so that hasn't helped either. Myers gets bull rushed every now and again up the middle and has his issues. Jenkins didn't look all that great last week. Tom has probably been their best offensive lineman of the 5 of them to this point at right tackle, and it doesn't sound like anything is changing. So it's going to be hard to run and pass if your offensive line doesn't play a hell of a lot better than they have to this point.
It is, to me, the offensive line and the struggles are the result of a shift in philosophy that's very interesting. For years, the Packers were the best, I thought, about cutting bait with a veteran player at the either at the right time or maybe a touch early, right? But they did this with Lang and with Sitton and in other positions too. Jordy Nelson, these were guys that hurt like crazy when they got cut, but their careers didn't last that much longer. They understood these things. Rodgers was the first case where that changed. And when it changed with Rodgers and they hung on to him as long as they did get MVP seasons out of him, but they paid a financial cost. They paid a price for that. And that price was that now, they're hamstrung enough that they can't go get guys. It's tough to squeeze guys into the payroll because they're doing that. Bakhtiari is example 2 of that, which is they tried, man, right? They gave Bakhtiari every chance to be where he needed to be. I don't think it's going to happen for him.
No.
It's not in Green Bay, and that hamstrings the team because that's money that you could be paying to serviceable offensive linemen under that old philosophy of cutting a little bit too early. But they didn't, and now they're stuck with what they got.
Yeah, there is a good chance. I've been talking about this and Kurt along with Ryan Horvath. There's a good chance you're going to have 2 rookie running backs and a rookie left tackle next year on this team, and maybe a rookie left tackle and a rookie right tackle if Tom slides into guard. There's a chance that at least half of this offensive line are rookies next year because that first round, there's several tackles. There could be 4 or 5 offensive tackles in the first round of that draft right now, it looks like. So from that perspective, that's going to be a rookie. Running backs, I don't see how Jones comes back unless he takes another pay cut. There's no way they want A.J. Dillon back at this point from what they've seen. And he had his best game of the year against the Raiders. I don't think that's good enough to keep him. And there's nobody. Patrick Taylor, there's no reason for him to be on the roster. He doesn't do anything. There's nothing special about him. At least with Wilson, he gives you opportunity to hit a home run. There's nothing about that with Patrick Taylor. Nothing at all. Like, there's no reason to have him on this roster. I'd rather go find some guy that's 5'8" with, crazy fast speed that if I hit him out in the flat, he might take it to the house. He may not be great running the ball in between the tackles or the guard, but somebody with just, Olympic type speed that can take it to the house. I'd rather burn a spot on the practice squad than burn a spot on Patrick Taylor.
You could unfreeze Darren Sproles of like 7 years ago and put him on this roster. He would have extreme value right now.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, talking with Kevin Holden, CBS58 sports director. Follow him on Twitter at 321QKevin. That is our Packer segment of Curd and Long. You download Curd and Long on your Odyssey app, or if you download your favorite podcast app. Also check us out on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page where we live stream these bad boys every time, unless I'm by myself, in which case I don't want to look at myself for 30 minutes, nor should you. So we don't do it. Then we just put up the audio version. So make sure to do that. All right, Kevin Holden, let's move on to the Badgers. I had the pleasure, I don't know about pleasure, going to the Badger football game this week against the Hawkeyes. The Badgers offense was so bad, it put my 7-year-old to sleep, literally in the stands, sound asleep in the second quarter, woke up at halftime. That wasn't good. Tanner Mordecai ends up breaking his hand. And Braden Locke now gets a chance. The redshirt freshman who was at Mississippi State and knows the air raid and all that fun stuff. So he gets a chance to play. Behind him is Miles Burkett, who was a star at Franklin, who had a little bit of run here last year. So now he's behind Locke. I think it's between those two now how this plays. If Locke doesn't play well for a couple of weeks, maybe then they go to Burkett and see what he looks like. I don't think it goes to the next two guys after Miles. I don't think we're going to go that deep into the quarterback room this year. Your thoughts on what this Badgers offense looks like to this point?
Oh, yeah. I think they really wanted to evolve. They wanted to. How many transfer quarterbacks did they have in this past off season where they were sounding? It was 3. It felt like 7.
3
because of those social media alarms, right?
Right.
So they brought all these guys in. And you heard talk about this whole shift in philosophy and that kind of thing. And the funny thing about it is they've been at their best, the Badgers have, when they played offense the way they used to play offense. Not that I'm advocating doing that all the time, but they've been at their best when they look like the old Badgers. And at this point, because it's either going to be Locke or Burkett, you're either going to have someone with basically no experience, at the college level, and someone with a half of pretty rough experience against Iowa. I think it's time to swallow pride a little bit, at least for the time being, maybe for a week or two, and just bring it back. It is
no chance. There's no chance they're not running air raid. Phil Lago is not running 1950s Big Ten smash mouth football. There is zero chance that's happening. None. But again, you go back and look at that Iowa game. There was 3 straight possessions. He never called a run. And if he did, Mordecai checked out of it. 3 possessions of 1-2-3 punt, 1-2-3 punt, 1-2-3 punts. And then on the 4th possession, they finally ran the damn football. And you have Braylon Allen. And say Braylon Allen twists an ankle and he's out, fine. Then run Akers. I don't give a damn who you run. But you have to have some type of running game. And Longo completely abandoned the running game.
Here's the thing about it. This new administration has come in. They have an entirely new philosophy. That's great. I'm not opposed to that new philosophy at all. But they just got there, which means that roster is almost entirely constructed of people from before they got there. It's a little bit better with transfer portals and that kind of thing. You can bring some of your own people with you, the people you want with you. But still, for the most part, those Badgers are those Badgers from last year. or the year before. And you may eventually be able to air raid this thing effectively. But I just don't think this year's the time to do it, especially if Tanner Mordecai is looking at an extended absence. I don't think it's the time to do it. And here's the thing. I don't know if you saw this. Obviously, I bet if Horby was here, he'd be touching on this. So I'll channel Horby for a second. You realize the Badgers are 2.5-point favorites. That's it.
At Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're going to be favored in every game the rest of the year outside of Ohio State in 2 weeks. That's the only game they won't be a favorite in. Everybody else, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Nebraska, they're going to be favorites in all of those.
Yeah, they should. If they just play average football, they have a chance to win every game that's not Ohio State.
Correct.
I mean, that's the thing about it. And what that means is it's a weird kind of pressure for Fickell and his staff, because what if they don't? What if they lose? Not that they're going to go anywhere, but you know what I mean? What if they lose 2 or 3 games? I mean, I think the idea of building this momentum for the program that they were trying to have in this offseason is unwinding a little bit, and could if they have a couple of slip-ups along the way.
That's the other thing. I don't want Mordecai back. Let me be very clear. I don't want him to play another down of Badger football. You broke your hand. Let's say he's out 4 weeks, whatever. Well, that's what leaves 2 games, whatever. And then the bowl game. No, absolutely not. If Braden Locke is playing well, or Burkhead, whoever they go with, I think it's going to be Braden Locke, though. If Locke is playing well, okay, Ohio State, they're going to get annihilated. Fine, put that aside. But if he's won the rest of them outside of Ohio State, you don't touch this offense. Tanner, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it didn't work out. You came here for a better chance to be in the NFL. You actually went backwards and reversed your stock instead of getting better. You actually hurt your draft stock now at this point. So good luck in your future endeavors. But we're going with him because he is the guy that's going to be the quarterback next year. In a weird way, it's a blessing in disguise for this entire staff, because for the other guys on this team that are all underclassmen and young, these transfer portal guys, the USC guy, the Cincinnati guys, those guys are all young guys. They're all going to be back next year. So now I get to develop chemistry with this Locke, who's going to be my starter next year, more than likely. And we get to work together for the next several weeks. Like, to me, you don't screw that up and put Mordecai back in there in 4 or 5 weeks and mess this whole thing up again.
Especially if, let's say somehow mysteriously he's available in 2 or 3, and you eke out a win in Illinois and you get annihilated by Ohio State, and you are looking at a minimum of 3 losses, and you're looking at this ceiling on your season, right? There's a point where, I don't want people to check out of this season, but there's a point where, okay, this is your limit, 3 losses, 4 losses. There's a certain bowl attached.
3 losses is still 9 wins. That's still a good season.
It's a good season, but you're talking about going all in with Mordecai and hoping for whatever max result is. I don't know. I think I could absolutely see going with Locke, and maybe if that costs you an extra win somewhere along the way, and it's 4 losses. Okay. Yep.
I agree. 1000% agree. What about Mike Tressel and the defense? Thoughts there? Because Jim Leonard's defense was dominant, really good for a long period of time. What do you think of Tressel's defense that he's running?
I think that's been another process, right? It was one of those things where defenses, I think, learn a little more early in a season than offenses do, because you can just run right over whatever opponent. You don't have to do much from a game planning standpoint. But that Washington State game, I thought, was a bit of a gut check, right? They go out to Washington State, they lose, they give up 31 in that game, if I remember right, and that's where gut check time happened. They were fine against Iowa, but everybody's fine against Iowa. I don't necessarily.
They gave up the one big run, and that was essentially it to the fourth quarter when Iowa put it away.
Right. So I think they've got a chance to build momentum. They've got a chance to go to Illinois and build on what they just did against Iowa. You're going to have to weather a storm against Ohio State. But, I feel like the returns on that are pretty good. It's interesting how offensively it's complete upheaval, and defensively feels a bit like it has. It doesn't feel that much different than it has. There's talent on that side of the ball that can make a difference. And I don't know. 2023 isn't that different for me on the defensive side.
All right, let's talk about the Milwaukee Brewers. Last topic du jour here on Kurt and Long. No managerial announcement yet. Apparently talking with council still. Thoughts, feelings on council back or not?
I'll answer it. You said thoughts.
I better make sure I check Twitter as we're recording to make sure he didn't announce what the hell he's doing.
No,
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think he will. I don't think he will till after the World Series. But I'm gonna split thoughts and feelings because you said those. I'm gonna split them. Thoughts are Counsell has done more with, I won't say less, but more with weird situations than any manager has in a while. He's the longest tenured manager in the National League.
Yep.
And I think he's an essential guy to the Brewers' success as much as people want to nitpick on this and that and the other. I think Counsell has won with different types of teams, and he's done the right thing. I think he should stay. I feel that he won't. I feel that, honestly, if you want to know my true gut opinion, I think your clubhouse leader is that Counsell just checks out for a little while, that he just goes home. And it's, you reach a certain age in a certain situation in your life, and you know how Counsell is. He's his own guy, right? He's got grown kids now, kids that are out of the house, and he can, he's proven himself. What else does he really need to do on that front? He could sit at home and either choose the managerial situation that works for him or just not deal with the stress of it. I also wouldn't be shocked if David Stearns lays, some big package at him to come manage the Mets, but I don't think it's the clear front runner that people think. I think people want to make him a Met. I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
He ain't dealing with the New York media twice a day for 162 games. Well, with that, Craig Counsell does not want to deal with that media that often, all the time. Sports talk, radio, all that, no way. This is what I would say. If I was Matt Arnold, and I've said this before, I'd go to Counsell and go, look, man, you want a year off? No problem. But Pat Murphy will be the manager for a year. Take a year off, go watch kid play college baseball, kind of re-energize your batteries. But we're going to tell you right now what we're going to do while you're gone. I'm trading Corbin Burns. I'm trading Willy Adames. Both of them are gone. And we're going to start kind of this rebuild, reload, whatever the hell you want to call it with these younger guys. So you're not going to have to be here to have to deal with the, can you believe they traded Corbin Burns question? You won't have to deal with that. Can you believe they traded Willy Adames? You won't have to deal with that either. But I'm telling you, it's happening while you're gone. So I don't want you to be surprised. And then when you come back, we'll be in rebuild mode. We'll have all the prospects we get back from both of those deals, couple guys up in the rotation, and kind of this is how we go. And the reason why Burns has to go, with Brandon Woodruff out now for the year, it looks like you have no chance of a World Series. That's done. So if you have no chance of a World Series, this is not playing Prince Fielder's contract out because you had a chance to win the damn thing. You're not going to be in that situation. So now you have to move Burns this offseason. Get as big of a haul as you can going into the last year of his deal in arbitration. Be done. Willy Adames hasn't hit the same since his first year. That's another one. Bye-bye. Because Terrain can play shortstop and just be just as bad hitting. So he can play shortstop, and there's your answer there. And then you've got to figure out, what do you want to do at second, first, and third from that perspective. I'll tell you what I'm lobbying for, and everybody laughs at me. I want Sal Frelick moved to second base this offseason. I want them to say, you're playing second going forward. Go play second. You're athletic enough to play second. You played second either in college or something at the end. If you go on Baseball Reference, at the very, very top, you can find him playing second base for a couple of games. I want him to play second base. I want Terang to be at shortstop, and then figure out whatever first and third is going to be. If Tyler Black is going to be at first, or probably first base, I'm guessing. If he's at first base, fine. Get some old dude to play third for all I care. That outfield should be Jackson Churio, Mitchell, and Weimer. Yelich should be the designated hitter. Leave Contreras at catcher, and let's go and see what happens. I'd rather do that and suck next year possibly, because these guys are going to have to figure this stuff out. I'd rather do that than just plug holes with a bunch of old dudes and pick up a couple Wade Mileys and go, oh, we're going for it, and waste everybody's time. I'd rather get the experience for these young guys like Mizorowski and some of these other cats at some point to get up here. Your thoughts on how you would do this?
There's a weather forecast for me with the Brewers. There's a storm coming. It's going to be a rough next, like this offseason, maybe into the first part of next year, maybe into the whole of next year. There's a rough period coming, and it's by a variety of factors. But then on the tail end of that, there's some sun on the back end of that rain, and that sun is, by the time you get to the end of next year and the start of 2025, Mitchell's in his third year, and Weimer's in his third year, and Frelick's in his third year, and Terang's in his third year, and Churio is up. And that team, to me, all of a sudden has that feel of what, the 2006, 7-ish Milwaukee Brewers, Like is Churio Braun? You know what I mean? He shows up, and those other kids have been up for a year or two, and they all mature together. That is the thing that if you're looking for the optimism, that's the optimism. The pessimism is, oh my goodness, what's coming up? Burns is arbitration eligible. Remember that the last time?
Can't have it.
Remember? No, I mean, I literally think from I don't like using the term PR, but that's what it is essentially, right? From a publicity standpoint, a PR standpoint of the team, I think they don't want to get anywhere near that, and I don't think they want to get near that with other guys too. Woodruff is arbitration eligible, but obviously the injury kills that whole situation. Adames arbitration eligible, Devin Williams arbitration eligible. So arbitration is going to be a real nasty word, part of this storm in the offseason. There's talent here.
No, Kevin, no, it does not have to be. Burns tells you a number, and Burns tells you a number, and you pay it, right? Adames tells you a number, and you pay it. You want to know why? Because I ain't keeping either one of you fools anyhow. So sure, whatever you want done, I'm not paying you. And that if I'm Matt Arnold, Corbin, we're good. Hey man, I want no problems. We're just gonna pay you. I don't want to go through it again. Hey man, thanks a lot, Max. Sounds good. A couple weeks later, Corbin, you just moved to Cleveland. Good luck. Enjoy your future endeavors, or wherever the hell you're trading them to. And that's it. Because I agree with you. You cannot go back into that room and have to argue against Corbin Burns again. That cannot happen.
And you're asking for what you're asking for is a radical shift in philosophy, but it's also, after what happened last year with Burns, it may not be so radical. It might be something that's being considered. I would, because I think that sort of thing affects your future ability. When you build this young team, and you just said it, you need to put that old guy at third. The old guys that can play third, if they see this situation and they go, this is how they treat guys after they get experience, they don't want to come. That's not the thing you want. You want the opposite of that.
Yep, I totally agree. He is Kevin Holden. He's the best. Follow him on Twitter at 321Q Kevin. CBS58 sports director, does Packers play-by-play in the preseason. Always does Brewers play-by-play as well for Telemundo. You follow me at Sparky Radio. Ryan Horvat, I think, will be back on Wednesday. Who knows if he gets called into a case? I can't imagine. He's a radio host. How the hell does he get called into a case? But it's DC, so you never know. Kevin, thank you so much, my friend, and we will talk down the line.
Always appreciate it, Sparky. We'll put odds on Horvy's return Wednesday.
He better be here Wednesday. He better be here Wednesday. All right, have a good one. 2.